Hello, my name's Cody Carlson. We'll get started with my candidate info. This is my 5th year of teaching, as we've talked about before. Currently the high school ISS teacher at Great Bend. I will be staying in the USD 428 district, but I'm going to take a new job at the elementary PE, and I'll talk about this later, but this program offered me the opportunity to make that move. Big thing I saw was this whole program made me grow, especially in understanding how the educational process worked. I have great role models here at the high school and at the elementary school as far as building leaders go, and they definitely helped. This is my video. As we see, I kind of talk more in detail about that for personal goals. As I said, I just took the job as elementary PE teacher. This is going to help add experience to my resume. This will actually be the 3rd place I've taught, so I have taught high school, middle school, and elementary PE, and we'll just kind of find my niche, where I like to fit, where I like to stay. I'm very excited to get back into the classroom. In 5 years, we're going to kind of see how this process goes. I'm not exactly sure what job will be open, but we're going to make moves, and we're going to try and make it back to the KC metro area, kind of closer to our families. My versatility, I think will be attractive, and it will help me get a job. As far as 10 years from now, graduating from this program is going to open up a lot of doors and not limit me to just being a coach, but I will also have the option of being a building leader. So in 10 years, I hope to be in a leadership position. I don't know exactly where that's going to be, but I feel like I am called to be a leader and empower young men and women, preferably at the high school level, but I don't know. Maybe I will really like this elementary gig. Personal goals, I'm so close now. Let's finish, let's graduate. This district offers an extra pay bonus for finishing and graduating with your master's, so that's definitely something to look forward to. My midterm goal, I was eventually continue my education with a National Strength Conditioning Association certification. That's basically a master's equivalent in the strength conditioning community. And then long-term goal, let's find a place where we can start raising my family, and let's start growing roots there. So from my philosophy of education and leadership philosophy, I believe leadership's built out of 4 things. Passion. People smell fake. You can fake intensity, but you cannot fake passion. People want to follow people that are passionate, and genuine passion is that's what they're looking for. As far as consistency, I think that is the #1 factor for success. It takes self-discipline, and there's an accountability factor for all people, and they need that. Everybody seeks and wants accountability. They just don't know it all the time. Trust. Everybody must know that you have the team's best interest in mind. They may not always agree with it because it may not be in their individual interest, but as long as you keep the team's interest in mind, they will understand, and that's a 2-way conversation. People want to be heard, people want to be valued, and that doesn't always mean it's the easy decision. Sometimes you have to make the hard decision. And lastly, as a leader, you are to empower people. You can't be everywhere at once, is what I kind of learned from this program. You have to delegate things, and that is creating and building leaders that share your vision, and you'll be okay with that. As far as my program of study, I really liked the flexibility that it offered. So I was able to start with the intro course, and then go in the summer and take the technology class, kind of get my feet wet, understand how this process goes, and then we jumped right into it. So school law, curriculum, evaluation, finances, data analysis, kind of the meat and potatoes of how the administrative duties work, and I learned a lot of how the school system works. And then lastly, I finished with cultural diversity, special ed research, and ed leadership, and those were your kind of higher level thinking, and that's where I kind of developed my own leadership qualities and ideas. I thought it was a very well-rounded program, and I really enjoyed all of it. With my resume, as I was updating this, I felt a sense of accomplishment typing in that Master's of Science degree. That's something coming from a family that had no one graduating any sort of college, let alone a high school, to developing a master's degree. That was a big win for everybody, and that's a lot of pride there. I found out the importance of keeping an updated resume. This definitely came in handy when the opportunity for that PE job opened up. I already had that resume ready to go, so that was great. With the bibliography, so I came up with 10 ideas that I still had questions or concerns about after this program, kind of going into the realm of administration. So my first one was discipline and kind of continuing research of new ideas. You may not always agree with the new age fad of discipline, but it makes you think and identify where your values are still, and keeping up to date with that. PBIS is a big thing, it seems like, with a lot of schools now. Keeping up to date with that and continuing to research that I feel like that's the way it's going, and I see positives with that, so kind of staying along with that. Kickboard was a technology they used to keep track of positive behavior, so data analysis a little bit as well. Smartphones, I feel like that's going to be an issue for a long time, so keeping up with how other administrators are handling that. It's alright to steal some things from time to time. CTE classes, being at the high school, being around this side of the building, shop and wood classes, we see how important these are to the high school, and it's the future, so keeping up to date with that is a huge priority for mine. Budgets, that was one class that I struggled a little with and still continue to learn about that. Student gender identities, that's becoming a new issue, so especially the legal side of that and making sure you are taking the necessary steps, I guess to say, to make sure you're staying out of legal trouble. For teacher evaluations, for your culture to be strong in your vision, you have to continue to hire and move teachers around that fit your vision, so you won't know that unless you evaluate them properly. To be a great leader, you must delegate, so we're talking about leadership qualities here, empowering people below you. People want to be valued, people want to have a purpose. It's a great way to do it. And then data, so this is data collection versus data analysis with EduClimber, and being able to actually use your data for good instead of just collecting it. And then lastly, parent communication. I feel like that's part of the game. We are all on the same team, so parent communication is vitally important. Now getting to my activities. So elementary, I was the active supervisor for a lot of elementary vocal concerts. I learned a lot of communication there. I was able to communicate with a lot of parents, a lot of students. A lot of community members came out and supported these little students and their choir. Crosswalk monitoring, there I got to greet a lot of parents, a lot of interactions with them, and kind of get a feel of, I don't have a student, or I don't have a child right now, so it was kind of understanding where they're coming from a little bit and having conversations with them. Morning gym supervision, so interacting with the students a little bit more than the parents on that one. WIN group observation, so they're doing math and reading, small group, so I was observing and assessing those. Recess duty and lunch duty, those were two of my favorite ones. You kind of get to interact with the students a lot more, make sure they're safe, make sure they're following the rules and being held accountable, but being able to interact and have relationships with those kids. Classroom walkthroughs, went with the principal, followed them around, we evaluated, and then we would come back and meet and have conversations about what we liked, what we didn't like, what was interesting and cool about that. So with that, these activities really opened my eyes of how the elementary school works. With secondary, my passion's in sports and activities, so I was with my athletic director a lot. He's been through it all. He's a veteran, and he was definitely helpful in that. Media guide, he talked about the importance of keeping records, and he, in his early career, did not, and he thought that I would have a great opportunity to research from a multiple of resources, coaching records, schedules, scores, stats, everything, and creating this media guide. So now yearly we'll just be able to plug that in. Record board, we had to get that record board ready for our first home game, show off the new records. Basketball tournament administrator, it seemed like everything that I learned in all these courses came up that day, from financial with checking the tables, to paying the officials, to assigning and greeting teams, to crowd monitoring. Everything came into play that I'd been learning. Classroom walkthrough, same thing. Observed all those classes, came back, talked about what we liked, what we didn't like. Middle school basketball, did some extra crowd control and the financial table. Lunch duty, this one's a little different in high school. I feel like you're building more relationships than student safety. You have 300 kids at a time coming in there, so it gets a little hectic. Pep assembly supervision, that was coming from just making sure every student is following the rules. And then parent-teacher conferences, I helped set that up, created and did some research on our end-of-year recognition. Every 5 years they're going to get recognized. So we have one student one teacher that's been there for 40 years. And then I was the active supervisor for the blood drive. I created an all-district calendar for district-wide so that every elementary and middle school can have that, as well as flyers that can be hung up in those schools as well. I was the active supervisor for the district concert. There were a lot of people there, so I had to direct a lot of parents and communicate with a lot of people from the community. Data collection, one of the board meetings, the board wanted more information on school schedules around this area compared to ours, how we were wanting to switch to an 8-hour class, so I did that research. We had a CTE career day. A lot of students made their way through the gym that day to see our new pathways and our CTE schedules. Board education meetings showed me a lot of the direction this school is going and this district's going. And then visible learning workshop, we decided and talked about what a great learner would look like in this district. Activity log, there are 26 activities, 160 hours, 12 in secondary, 7 in elementary, and 7 in district. And as well, here is my admin eval signatures. This is our high school secondary athletic director, and then this was the elementary principal, Mr. Wilson. So finally, a little run out of time, but with my reflection, my worries was time commitment and just the level of relatable information. Just starting my 3rd year, I wasn't sure if I really even cared to know how the school went. I'm so glad I did, because I grew in this educational field a ton and was able to just see the big picture of how the school works in this district. Definitely was worth the time commitment and the quality of work. And then it also opened my eyes to just how much good stuff's happening in this community, in this district. As far as a lesson I really learned, it was that quality conversations are the best way to learn and to continue to grow. Each course offered a new conversation with administrators and colleagues, and just surrounding yourself with great people and having those challenging conversations is a way to grow. And then lastly, as I talked about, these hourly activities got me out of my comfort zone, made me get out of my ISS room and go to the elementary school and actually see that there's other things out there. And creating a relationship with that principal, I realized that he was heading the right way and I wanted to be a part of that. Just happened that there was an opportunity, so now I am going to, thanks to this program, be at the elementary school. Thank you for this entire program.